Hi, we're back again on our every other Thursday. I'm Tom Leskowski with Midwest Native Skills. And we have a friend of mine who's going to help me out. Jeff is here, and he's going to be fielding your questions. Hi, Jeff.
Hello.
And so I'm sure things will go off without a glitch today. And today we're talking about dandelions. I sure appreciate if you write in any questions you have or any experiences you have with dandelions. I'm trying to make the topics that we talk about a little more pertinent to the season. So I thought, well, what are we going to do this week? So I thought dandelions are coming up. It's early May now. And dandelions do grow all year long. But in early May, they're coming up all over. They last for a good 3 weeks. As I'm sure you know, in your yard, you'll see them all over. And now's the time, if you're really going to do something with dandelions, now's the time to do it because they're all over, they're abundant, and you can get out and do some things with your family. Now you're thinking, what am I talking about? Dandelions are weeds, right? We want to get Chemlon out here to get rid of them. Well, not really. Most people don't realize that dandelions are not native to North America. They were brought over in the 1600s by the settlers. The European settlers came over here, and just like now we're going to the moon, and when our astronauts go to the moon and they decide to start growing food on the moon, they're going to take things to grow, probably like tomatoes and potatoes and other things when they start their gardens up there. Well, the settlers that came over on the ships brought things to plant here, and they brought things that were highly nutritious and that they ate all the time and that they were used to. And one of those things was dandelions, so they brought those over as a food source. So about 1600s they brought them over, and dandelions were used as a food source basically up until the 20th century. And then people got the notion that they weren't so much a food source, that they were a weed, and hence the birth of Chemlon, and now we try to get rid of the weeds. So we're going to try to go back, rediscover the old ways, and I'll tell you a few things to do with the dandelions. So that's what we're doing today, some fun food, some fun things you can do with dandelions. Before I get into actually some things you can do about eating the dandelions, and I'm talking fun foods like pizza, we're going to talk wine, we're going to talk about a coffee substitute. Just want to tell you a few basic things that you might not know about the dandelions. The vitamins. Natural foods are healthy. One thing again you might not know is dandelions, and we're talking now about the leaves in particular right now, very high in vitamin A, C, and K. Now A, you know, are good for your eyes. C, great for your immune system. But what the heck is K for? K is good for blood clotting. Now, what I personally use vitamin K for is if I'm going to go on a trip, go up in the woods. I know on our main winter trip I'll go someplace, and I'm concerned, if I get a cut, I want my wound to clot a little quicker. So you can purchase vitamin K in the grocery store. It's a little hard to find, but you can find, pills just like you can find vitamin A and C. I'll take a week before I go a couple vitamin K pills just to help my blood clot quicker. Well, don't have to really do that if I would just eat some dandelion greens. I get my vitamin K that way. Now again, I'm not recommending this if you have blood clotting problems or medical problems. That's a whole different story. But if you're a healthy person, vitamin K is a good thing to help your blood clot a little quicker. A few other things now about your minerals, and this is about the leaves and the roots of the dandelion. High in potassium, magnesium, calcium, and iron. Those are all good for you. So these are all in the plant. Now let's go a little other things. The plant represents the sun, the moon, and the stars. Now the flower naturally looks kind of like a sun. When it goes to seed, they say that represents the moon. And when the seeds fly apart, all the little seeds go, They say that represents the stars. And that's the only plant that represents all three of those, the sun, the moon, and the stars. Also, if you're a little superstitious, if you pick a dandelion when it goes to seed and make a wish and blow the seeds, they say your wish is going to come true. So all of you out there that think that's all childish, try it sometime and see if it works. I challenge you. Be a kid again. Have some fun. A few other things. Just trivia. It takes about a week for the flower to turn to seed. So when you see that yellow flower, in about a week, it'll go to seed. Now, I'm not sure if you ever noticed, but the flowers open in the morning and at night they close. They also close when it's raining, which almost caused me problems today. Here in Cleveland, it was raining this morning, so I was looking out knowing I was going to do a dandelion presentation and all the flowers around me were closed. Luckily, the sun came out and the flowers opened, so we do have some yellow flowers to show you here. But in the rain, they close up tight, and also at night, they close up tight. A few things about health reasons, some minor things. They help when you take like a dandelion tea, which we're going to talk about in a second, helps regulate blood sugar, especially if you have type 2 diabetes. Helps somewhat with anti-inflammatory, but the real claim to fame for dandelion is it promotes liver health. So if you have any problems with the liver, or maybe once in a while you like to go out partying a little hard and with a hangover now and then, and your liver might be taking its toll, dandelion might be something you want to supplement your diet with, just to help out that liver of yours. Okay, so those are some of the basics, some of the more boring things about the dandelion. Good to know, but let's talk more about what we can do with the dandelion. Now, naturally, you don't want to collect dandelion where anyone's been fertilizing. Well, that's pretty easy to do because if they've been putting down weed killer and fertilizer, you won't find any dandelions there. So that's pretty self-explanatory. If there's no dandelions, somebody's been putting fertilizer down, there won't be any. But if you come to a patch where there's plentiful dandelions, chances are no one's been fertilizing there. The three parts of the dandelion that we're going to be using are going to be the yellow flower heads, the leaves, and the root. And on the dandelion, we're going to use all three of these. Let's start with my favorite, that Dandelion Pizza. I was talking to a friend of mine, Josh, this morning, and we were talking. He was real interested in the Dandelion Pizza. He goes, "How can you make pizza out of dandelion?" And here's how you do it, Josh. What you do, I like to do it with pita bread, but you can use it with any kind of bread, so don't think you have to go out and get pita bread. You can do this with normal white bread, but you can just get pita bread, cut it in half with a knife. I just want to be a little neat here, so I look a little more professional here on Facebook. Jeff, do we have anybody watching yet? Anybody tuning in that you see?
Don't worry about me. I'm having some difficulties.
Oh, that's okay. Technical difficulties are always a problem. You open up the pita bread. So you can do this if you're out camping. Open it up a little bit. And what you want to do, I'm not sure if you ever noticed, is you get some dandelion leaves. Now, if you just eat the dandelion leaves as they are here, they're going to be a little bit bitter. But what you want to do is get, I would say, 3 or 4 dandelion leaves. Maybe 5. Now, whenever you eat something bitter, it's good for your liver. Back in the 1800s, the 1880s, 1890s, you'd go to your local drugstore and you'd get a bottle of something they called bitters. And if you take a tablespoon a day just for general health. Now, you probably guessed it, it tasted bitter, but it would help your liver. It was your daily tonic. Well, we don't do that anymore today, and our liver and our bodies are hurting. So dandelion leaves are somewhat bitter. Now, these leaves, you can see they're pretty jagged. These are going to be more bitter than our more smoother leaves, but these are going to be better for your for your health, better for your liver. So you take these leaves, open up the pita bread, and you lay them on one side of the pita bread. Just like this. Stuff them in there. I know I can get another one in there. Okay. See that there? Now, to counteract some of that bitterness, just get some tomato sauce. I like ragu traditional, but you can use any kind you want. What you can do, take some and try to spread it all over the dandelion leaves. Now what this is going to do, the acidity of the tomato paste or the tomato sauce is going to counteract a good portion of the bitterness in your leaves here. Put this on the side here.
We got Teresa and Wendy are with us here.
Hi Teresa, I'm glad you joined us.
And she says she likes your table.
You like the table? That was Cheryl's idea.
Can you eat the flour from West Virginia?
You can. It's going to taste kind of like a cotton ball, but you can. I kind of like this a lot better. Okay, last step for making your dandelion pizza. Oh, I shouldn't say that. If you eat it like this, it's going to taste like a cotton ball. I'll tell you in a second how a better way to eat the flour is, though. Get some mozzarella cheese. And, oh, there goes a nice tablecloth. Put the cheese in there. Okay, now, two things you can do with it right here. If we were out camping, take a piece of foil, wrap it up in foil, just like this, put it on some hot coals for about a minute and a half. That's going to be hot enough to melt the cheese. But we're here at home, so I won't use the foil. What I'll do, I'll keep it on a plate like this, and I'll go over to the microwave, and I'll nuke it for about 30, 40 seconds. That'll be enough to melt the cheese, and that'll be my dandelion pizza. So you can either nuke it, if you're at home here, or if you're camping, you can put it on your campfire. So that's a dandelion pizza. Now, like I said, the tomato sauce is going to counteract some of the bitterness, or most of the bitterness of the leaves. You're getting all the benefit of the dandelion leaves. You're getting all the potassium, magnesium, calcium, and iron. You're getting the vitamin A, C, and K. And you have a nice, healthy lunch. One way to deal with dandelion. So that's one way for your dandelion pizza. Okay, now for Teresa's question, can you eat the flowers? And I said, yeah, if you eat them like this, it tastes like a cotton ball. You can fritter them. By fritter them, I mean make a pancake batter. I'd leave a little more of the stem on them. Dip them in your pancake batter. Then dip them in some hot, or fry them in some hot oil. When they're done, when they're golden brown, take them out, then you can eat them. Then they don't taste like that cotton ball anymore. They taste pretty good. So that's, you can fritter the flowers. And you can do that with a lot of things. You can do that with the red clover. In the, about midsummer, you get, there's white clover and red clover. The red ones look a little purplish. Do the same thing with the red clover. You take those, dip those in pancake batter, put those in hot oil. With those, they taste delicious. These taste good, not as good as the red clover, but these taste pretty good. There's other things I like to do with these, and I'll tell you about that, and that's making some dandelion wine. We'll get to that in a second. The other thing I like to do, let's get this cheese off here, is make a, they say it's a coffee substitute. Well, it's a non-caffeine coffee substitute, so I just like to say it's a morning breakfast drink. And you do that with the root of the dandelion. What you do with this, you take the root, you break the root off, so you have to dig the plant up. You take the root, break it off, and then you would take your knife, chop up the root real nice and small, and then you'd roast it or dry it, either one. And when you do that, now I roasted a whole lot of the root, and then what I did is I put it in our little grinder, and I got all of this. So this is just dandelion root that I dried and ground up. So I could make a tea out of this, but it's going to taste a whole lot better if you roast it. So about half hour before I went on live today, I realized I didn't have any dandelion root roasted. So I went out and I got my little folding handled frying pan from my survival kit. I put some grounds in here and put it over the stove here. Now you can do this very easily over a campfire, but I just got a stick, put it in here, and roasted this. Now to roast this much took exactly 5 minutes. So I roasted the roots of the dandelion, and there's a couple things you can do with this. You can actually use this just like coffee grounds in your automatic drip coffee maker. But if you're out camping, can't really do that. So you can either have a cup and just put them in the bottom of the cup and pour hot water in, kind of make like a cowboy coffee, or they have these tea bags. These seal your own tea bags. Some have drawstrings on them, or some they seal with heat. And if you ever came to one of our plant classes, we use these, especially in our fall class. And all you do, one side is open, you would fill this up about half full, and you need heat to seal it. Usually when camping I take drawstrings, so I can just pull the drawstrings here. This is called a Euro sealer. They used to use these to seal potato chip bags, but all you do is you put this on here. So this is what I use at home, and seal it one way, seal it the other way. Now the bag is sealed, and now I use this as a tea bag. Just put this in a cup for tea, and I make my coffee substitute. So that's how you use the grounds from dandelion root to make a morning beverage. But like I said, if I'm camping, I just take 2 or 3 teaspoons of this. I put it in the bottom of my cup, and I just pour hot water over it, leave it steep for about 12 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes. And yeah, the grounds are in there, but then I use that secret of taking that cold rock, dropping it into my cup. And yeah, it's going to cool off the water by a little bit, but that shock drops about 95% of the grounds of the dandelion to the bottom. So that's kind of a secret I use. And you're roughing it, so it's not going to be quite like at home with a perfectly clear cup of coffee with your coffee filter, but it's camping, so that's how I like to do it there. So that's making a coffee substitute with the dandelion root. Now you can always make a dandelion tea with the leaves, and you can do this one of 2 ways. You can use the fresh leaves to make a tea, or you can always use the dried leaves.
Wendy was asking how much heat do you need to use to roast those in your pan there?
Good question. You just put it over the heat. You don't want to use a crazy amount of heat. You don't want to get these to start burning. When they start smoking, lift it up a little bit. Because I know when I was doing this, I started to see a little bit of smoke coming up. I lifted the dry frying pan. You don't want to put anything in the frying pan, Wendy. You want it to be a dry frying pan. So I'm impatient, like probably most of us are. So I was keeping the roots moving, and then I saw a couple whiffs of smoke coming up from them. So I just lifted them up, turned the heat down a little bit, and I just kept them moving. And then I got a spoon and I kept moving them around, just like this, keeping them moving. And you don't want them black, you want them brown. So as soon as I saw a few turning just a little bit black, I thought, okay, that's good enough. So you want them golden brown, you don't want them black, and you want to put enough heat to get them brown, but not to get them to smoke. So that's a non-technical answer. Okay, to make tea, you can use the fresh leaves or you can use dried leaves. Trick here is if you use fresh leaves, you use twice as much as dried leaves. So in a tea bag, you typically use about 2 teaspoons. So if I was using dried leaves, I use 2 teaspoons. If I'm using fresh leaves, I use 4 teaspoons. So you double the amount when you're using fresh leaves.
So do you like tear those all up and everything when you're using the fresh leaves, or?
Yeah, and that's a great question. When you're using fresh leaves, how do you put them in the bottom of your teacup? Well, I got scissors here. And people say, well, can you just cut them up? I guess you can, but kind of like with cooking, I prefer to tear them up into small pieces.
Okay.
So I tear them up as small as I can and put them in the bottom of the cup. So I have these. And also...
Stems and all, or just...
Stems and all.
Stems and all. Okay.
I also, before I start tearing them up, Jeff, I like to bruise them. And so I just take my fingers and I bruise them a little bit like this.
Get all that flavor out of them.
Get the flavor out of them, bruise them, and then I'll just tear them up in as small of pieces as I can.
Okay.
Smaller is better.
Gotcha.
So that's how I do it. So that's how I make my tea. And again, you're getting all the nutritional value out of the leaves. So you can make your dandelion pizzas with the leaves. You can fritter the flowers. You can make your coffee substitute, no caffeine, but it is a morning beverage, out of the roots. You can make a tea out of the fresh leaves or the dried leaves.
Does one taste better than the other?
I like the dandelion tea. The dried leaves are a little stronger than the fresh leaves. The root has a different taste to it. This is going to sound cliche. It has more of an earthy taste.
Okay.
And I think that has something to do with the roasting.
Okay.
It's got more of a heavier taste. Now, if you want even more of a heavier taste, midsummer you're going to see a plant on the side of the road called chicory, if you're not familiar with that. Chicory, if you're driving down a highway, you see this spindly plant on the side of the road. It has those blue or purplish flowers. That's chicory. Chicory is a very close relative to the dandelion. You would pull the chicory out of the ground and go for its roots and do the same thing. You take the root, you chop it up, you'd roast it just like this, and you'd add it to your dandelion. You might even go to the grocery store and find coffee, it'll say with chicory. That's what they're adding. They're taking that plant and adding chicory to it. Chicory, though, is pretty strong. So you're only going to want to add no more than 25% chicory to your dandelion coffee. I know one of our plant classes, we had some pure chicory coffee, and it was stronger than anyone in the plant.
And so what do you mean by strong? What's strong about it?
It's like drinking a super espresso.
I mean, the caffeine strong, or are you talking
No
about
caffeine in anything.
Taste.
It tastes strong.
Taste strong?
The taste is really just really strong.
Like bitter?
Like bitter strong.
Okay.
Yeah. And no amount of sugar counteracted it.
I see.
So, but 25% enhance the flavor of the dandelion coffee, or 25% would enhance the flavor of any coffee that you like for your morning coffee. So you can use that chicory if you like whatever drip coffee you're using. You can add that chicory to it, and it's, if you like that chicory flavor, it'll enhance that flavor too.
Okay.
And it's free. It's on the side of the road. So, lastly, you're gonna like this. You can make dandelion wine, and that was all the way back to the Celtics. They think that dandelion wine started way back then, and in the 1800s, it wasn't looked upon well as for women to drink alcohol. However, dandelion wine had medicinal qualities for the liver and the digestive system, so it was okay if they drank dandelion wine because it was for health benefits. So the ladies would be drinking the dandelion wine, but only for health benefits. So it's easy to make dandelion wine. The tough part is getting the dandelions, because what you do, this is a quart jar. You need 3 quarts, 3 of these, of the dandelion blossoms. And when I say the blossoms, what we're after is just the yellow part. So you're going to have to get quite a few of these flower heads and then take all the green off. If you leave the green on, that's going to make your wine bitter. And even though I've been preaching that the bitter part is good for your liver, you don't want to drink bitter wine. So you're going to have to take some time, pull all the green off, and you want 3 quarts of just the yellow flowers. Once you get 3 quarts of just the yellow flowers, what you're going to do is you're going to get, let me get this, get a container like this. You're going to put the 3 quarts of flowers in here, and you're going to fill this with a gallon of boiling water. Flowers go in here, boil a gallon of water, dump the water on top of your flowers. And then you're going to either cover this at that point just with a towel and leave it sit for 3 days. After 3 days, you can take the towel off. You're going to get 2 oranges and 1 lemon. You're going to get one of these gizmos. It's a zester for those of you that aren't familiar with cooking. You're going to take it and you're going to zest the orange. And all that means is you take this plain and you just take the outer orange part off and you collect that. And you don't want to get, if you go too far, you're going to hit this white skin. Again, that's the bitter part. You want to leave that on. You just want the orange part. You do that to both oranges, and you can do the same thing to the lemon. You're going to zest this lemon and just get the yellow part off, leaving the white part. Make a pile of that there. You're going to peel the white part off, and then you're going to take the oranges and the lemon, slice them really thin. You're going to let this cool down. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You're going to heat this back up now. After 3 days, you're going to heat this back up to boiling. You're going to add sugar. You're going to add 3 pounds of sugar. Now, this granulated sugar is 4 pounds. So, by adding 3 pounds of sugar, you're going to have to weigh it. Your wine's going to be about 12%.
Can you move the jar out of the way?
Which jar?
There you go. That's that one.
Yeah.
There you go.
So if you add 3 pounds of sugar, your end result is going to be wine that's going to be about 12%. If you want stronger wine, you can add this entire thing of sugar, this is 4 pounds, and you're going to have wine that's about 16%. So it depends how strong you want your end result wine to be. You add your sugar to this hot mess, mix it all up. When it cools down, then you're going to add your slices of orange, add your orange zest to it, and then you're going to clip this top on, and for you winemakers, this is called an airlock. Now, if you don't happen to have a container like this and don't have an airlock, you can just put your towel over it and put a rubber band on here and leave it sit for about 2 weeks. That's one way to do it. That's kind of the old-fashioned way. If you're a winemaker in a little more sophisticated way, you're going to put this airlock on. But before you do any of this, you want to add your yeast. This is what's going to make it ferment. So before you put your towel on, before you put your airlock on, you want to put your yeast in. You're going to put your yeast in, then put your airlock on. Now, what yeast would you put in? Well, if you only add 3 pounds of sugar, you can add wine yeast. It'll work fine. If you add this whole thing of sugar, you're going to want to add champagne yeast. That dies at a higher alcohol content. So if you're happy with 12% wine yeast is fine. If you want to go to 16% or 18% alcohol, you're going to have to get champagne yeast. Now you might be thinking, well, where do I get all this stuff? You can just Google winemaking supplies, and they'll say, do you want wine yeast or champagne yeast? So again, once this cools down, you add your yeast. Then if you don't have winemaking supplies like airlocks and things like that, just put a towel over this and rubber band it shut. If you happen to have winemaking supplies, you put an airlock in, fill this with water, you would know how to make wine, and then you let this sit for about 2 weeks. After the 2 weeks, the wine yeast has turned all the sugar into alcohol. You strain all the solids out, and your wine is ready to drink. They call that racking in winemaking. You can let it settle out again for, pour it into another container, let it settle out, or you can strain it to try to get it more clear. But your dandelion wine would be ready to drink at that time. Now that's a very basic way to make dandelion wine. You can get it clearer by letting it sit and letting it sediment drop out. That's a little more advanced. But if you want to make basic dandelion wine, that's what you do. You get the blossoms, you put them in a container, pour hot water over them, leave them sit for 3 days. After 3 days, you heat them back up, add your sugar, let it cool down, zest your oranges and lemons, put those in, slice them up, put the slices in, add your yeast. Once it's cooled down, because hot temperatures would kill the yeast. Once it's cooled down to room temperature, add your yeast. Cover it up so air doesn't get to it. Leave it sit for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, you have your dandelion wine. And just strain out the solids.
And how's that taste?
You're going to get some of the taste from the oranges.
Right.
It's going to, if you make the 12%, it's going to be a very mild wine. It tastes just like dandelion wine.
And how the higher alcohol content?
You're going to be tasting more alcohol in there.
Really?
You're going to take a sip and you're going to go, oh.
It's got a kick to it.
You're going to notice a kick to it.
Okay.
The higher, it's going to drown out the citrus a little more. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, everybody.
So if you're doing the higher alcohol content, can you add more orange and lemon zest and all that stuff to compensate for that, or is it just?
I never tried that.
You know what I'm saying?
That's one good thing about making wine yourself. Jeff brought up a good thing. Can you add more orange and lemon to compensate for the higher alcohol? And like I said, I never tried that.
Yeah.
That would be something fun to do.
Oh, we'll do that in October then.
Yeah. So right away, that's what you get into winemaking. So now you're making another batch and you're adding more sugar and you're adding more of this. And that's why I always say, always keep good notes when you do this. Because
Right.
you're going to find a recipe that's going to make a real good batch of wine. And if you don't keep good notes, you're going to...
Right. You won't
know what you did.
You're
You're going to think you remember, but you're not quite sure.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, that's why winemaking is so much fun. The trick about this, guys, is you have to do it this time of year. Because like Jeff said, that'd be something we could do in October. Not really, because these little buggers aren't around in October. You might find a few.
Can you freeze them?
You can. And that's the good part. If you can't find 3 quarts of these all right now, or all today, you say, well, maybe next weekend I can go look for some. You can't freeze them.
Okay.
So
When you dried that stuff there, did you do it in the dehydrator or?
I did all this in a dehydrator.
Okay.
I love a dehydrator. Harvest Mate has great dehydrators. There's many out there, but if you are buying a dehydrator, I'd highly recommend you get extra trays because you're going to put them to use. So you might as well get the extra trays when you buy your dehydrator.
Yeah.
There's a lot of uses for dehydrating. That could be a topic we cover at another Facebook Live. I'm always looking for ideas, so please
Fun
write
with
us
the
in.
dehydrators. You do a jerky class.
Jerky class and dehydrating. Yep.
Excellent.
So that's just some of the things. I'm sure if you went on Google and put in dandelion recipes, there's other things, but these are the three main things I like to do with dandelions. Again, I want to get the nutritional value. I want to help my liver out, but I want to have fun and have something that tastes good. And one thing that's surprising, kids love dandelion pizza. So if kids like it, most other people will too. So I encourage you this time of year to try the dandelion pizza. Try the coffee substitute if you're ever going camping. And get your family involved. And it's kind of just something fun to do. And like I said, you have to do it this time of year. So don't put it off to the summer because the dandelions aren't there. So if you can, get out this weekend, pick some dandelions, get some pita bread, and for Saturday lunch, have some dandelion pizza. So, other than that, if you have any ideas, write them into us. Love to hear you. And we'll see you 2 Thursdays from now. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you then.